Because Faheem Sam has to leave, so we would like him to share his...
I'm sorry for the imposition, breaking ranks here. We were supposed to do poetry first, and I just actually have to, there's a small commitment that I have to meet up with. I'll just be very quick about this. This is my book, The New Finance Construct. This is my first book that I released in 2012, and the second edition should be out in a month's time. This thin book took me 3.5 years to write, because it's about finance, economics, banking, and what's wrong with the financial system and how you can fix it. With everybody's permission, I'd just like to share just a few words. Oh, by the way, there is a solution to the financial problems, contrary to what people say. Okay, just before I go, a quick question. How many of you find finance interesting?
Very interesting question.
I'd be surprised well, finance is something we don't like to manage very well, so yeah, we're all very interested in it.
Very poor. Yeah, in those terms, yeah.
It's
dictates our existence, so yeah, we're very interested.
I'm surprised you said that, because yes, it does dictate our existence, and no matter which way you spin it, finance affects all of us, no matter whether we like it or not. So I'll just I'd like to share with you just a few things. This is not fiction, this is real, it affects you and me. All facts, statistical or otherwise, presented in this discourse are publicly available and can be independently verified from multiple sources ranging from the IMF, World Bank, and other sources of your choice. I urge the reader to explore on their own the concepts and ideas presented here. I also urge the reader to go through this book sequentially. You have to go through this book sequentially. This book is, this can be read by anybody. That's why it took me so long to write, क्योंकि इसमें किसी को finance का अलिफ बे भी नहीं पता, वो उसको पढ़ के समझ सकते हैं. And the first comment I got, जो मुझे second edition में मुझे इसका वो क्या कहते हैं acknowledge करना पड़ रहा है, और बड़ी खुशी से कि लोगों ने जो comments मुझे दिए इस book पे कि the first comment I got was from a person in actually communications. He had no knowledge of finance, but the way he described this book. The present-day finance construct is the result of sustained effort and thought. Let there be no doubt about that. This effort began some centuries ago and was with time carefully evolved into its present construct with a deliberate, invisible hand. The present state of financial structures and affairs do not have the efficacy, despite the touting of their strengths, especially given the veiling of their weaknesses, blunders, and malice. With time, this construct has become more and more destructive. This is evidenced by the massive and sequentially more severe financial collapses and meltdowns of global markets, the most recent of which are the 2012-13 global financial crises, the 2012 US and Euro debt crisis, the 2009 financial crisis, and so on. Why do these crises happen? This is a discussion of a problem and a solution. There is not a single debate on this or discussion on why our psychology is so fixated to the point of willful bondage on the illusion that interest is an all-encompassing, evolved and natural occurrence and manifestation. Interest is the primary reason of this financial system, and that is the main problem. I will conclude by saying there is a fast approaching global financial and economic implosion which necessitates a new outlook, thought process, and fresh action. It calls for a new finance construct.
And
thank you.
And that is the main thing, because when people talk about finances and numbers and things like that, they seem that they're completely out of their league. For the layman who does not have a technical insight, it seems rather overwhelming.
Unfortunately, partially true, because the objective was to, I've been very brief here, because the first chapter is about explaining the concept of finance. Then there's the history of finance, then there are definitions, then how they're interlinked, and then we start to describe the problem and how to fix it. I actually have a formula which replaces interest. I actually tested it out. I've gone down to the DNA level to how to restructure a financial system. What people need to sort of be a little sensitive about is, if you've seen a pyramid, pyramids are like this. The financial system is an inverse pyramid. So how big can you make the top with a tiny base? And I've even described how the pharaohs and the sophists of the ancients, they had more sense to build a bigger base and a smaller top. But the financial system that we're talking about, and I'll just not hog up the time. The United States of America currently has an internal debt of close to $90 trillion. It's not discussed. The world's production is 60 trillion. I'm talking about one country here. So we need to change our minds, we need to change our philosophies. But one thing I'd like to lastly share with everybody is, I have come across this psychological bondage that people face when it comes to interest and finance. They think you just can't fix it. You can't change it. That's the biggest problem. The structure is not the problem. We've got the formula right here. We could do it. And by the way, we Pakistanis have done more in trying to change systems than many people in the world.
All I can say is that look at the diversification of this group. Right from deep nazams to how to solve the biggest financial problems.
नहीं मैशत तो हर चीज में उसका हिस्सा शामिल है.
Money or the absence of it.
Thank you.
So I mean, I always thought that.
बल्कि अभी फैसल साहब की नज़म आ रही है, सॉरी यासिर साहब की नज़म आ रही है, जिसमें इसी किस्म के कुछ मसाइल होंगे और मैं इसी तरह की बात करने वाला हूँ.
No, but then it's something that people. Another thing that I think is that people are not educated into finance management. When, especially in our part of the world, our children are too dependent on their parents. At a young age, they do not understand the value of money. They do not understand how to budget things. So what happens is that that concept of always being reliant on parents to solve every problem, especially of a financial nature, is actually where we are, sort of making it harder for them to succeed in the real world.
And the successive generations have more problems to deal with. And since I'm from the industry, you see, when a doctor looks at a patient and he can tell, for example, the level of, if he's an oncologist, he can tell kis had tak cancer ki severity. I have maybe a slightly better idea of finance, but it is getting out of control. And people are just, they just think, everything is just hunky-dory. No, it's not. And what we've seen as implosions and financial meltdowns, this is nothing compared to what's coming our way. And it will be self-created because of the interest construct. And my effort was to get rid of this interest thing from not only our economy, but from all economies across this earth. That was my try.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
I would like to.
Wonderful.
Yes, I would like to add one thing here. Since I'm working in an economics university, the Pakistan Institute of Development Economics, where I had to edit lots of papers from all around the world, people ranging from Pakistan and different parts of the world. Although this is not my subject, when it comes to looking at economy or financial things, there is a misconception amongst people that there are certain things which can't be sorted out, which can't be fixed, as you mentioned. But I personally believe that it's so informative that people like you are working on this, and this is something I'm really impressed with that, because my father, he has been connected with finance all over throughout his life. Although I don't have much knowledge about it, but as far as I know, that generally we talk about interest rates and things like that, and then we believe that it cannot be fixed. But I'm really impressed that people who are working on that, and I'm sure that because of you, we will come to know different solutions regarding that. Thank you.
So all eyes are on you.
Oh God.
To
Sort out our financial issues.
And do tell us if you do individual consultancy. We're all in trouble.